Princess Verithix stood behind 3 layers of transparent shields, watching the stars through the palace observatory. She had never touched a real star. She had never touched anything real, actually. Everything in her life came filtered, sanitized, and perfectly safe. The Calrathi Empire stretched across 300 star systems, and Verithix was third in line to rule it all. Her people had conquered death, disease, and danger itself over the course of 10,000 years. No Calrathi had died from an accident in over 2 centuries. Their society was perfect, controlled, and completely predictable. Verithix hated it. She pressed one of her 4 slender hands against the innermost shield. The surface felt warm and smooth, always maintaining the exact temperature her biology preferred. She sighed, her breathing vents fluttering along her neck. Even the air she breathed was processed 7 times before reaching her lungs. "Your Highness, your father summons you to the throne room." The servant's voice came through the communication crystal, carefully modulated to avoid startling her. Verithix walked through corridors that had never known dust or decay. Cleaning drones hummed invisibly in the walls. The temperature never varied by more than a fraction of a degree. The light never flickered. Everything was perfect. Everything was boring. Her father, Emperor Zoltan, sat on the crystalline throne that had held his family for 3,000 years. But today, something unusual stood beside him. A creature Verithix had only seen in diplomatic transmissions. A human. "Daughter," her father said in their melodic language. "This is Marcus Webb. He will serve as your cultural advisor as part of the new exchange program with humanity." Verithix studied the human carefully. He was shorter than her, built thick and solid where Calrathi were tall and elegant. His skin was a strange brown color, and he had only 2 eyes instead of the proper 3. Most disturbing of all, he wore no environmental suit, no shields, nothing but simple cloth that wouldn't protect him from anything. "Honored to meet you, Princess," Marcus said in heavily accented Calrathi. He smiled, showing his flat teeth. Verithix tried not to recoil. Humans were known for their recklessness. They explored dangerous worlds. They ate food that wasn't synthesized. They actually touched things with their bare skin. The thought made her uncomfortable. Over the next few weeks, that uncomfortable feeling only grew. Marcus treated the palace like a prison he could barely tolerate. He kept asking to go outside without an environmental suit. He requested food that wasn't perfectly balanced for nutrition. He exercised, deliberately making himself tired for no productive reason. "Why do you do that?" Verithix asked one day, watching him lift heavy weights in the palace gymnasium. The Calrathi had abandoned physical training millennia ago, when they perfected medical maintenance of muscle tissue. Marcus set down the weight, breathing hard. "Feels good. Makes me stronger. Reminds me I'm alive. But we have medical treatments that maintain optimal muscle density without effort." "Yeah, but where's the fun in that?" Marcus grinned and picked up the weight again. Verithix didn't understand fun. The Calrathi had eliminated it along with danger. Pleasure, yes. Entertainment, certainly. But fun, that wild, unpredictable joy that humans seemed to chase, that was foreign to her. Then everything changed. Verithix was in her study when her father summoned her urgently. She rushed to the throne room and found him surrounded by military advisors, all of them looking grave. "Rebel factions have attacked Theta Calrathi 7, her father announced. 3 cities are damaged. Refugees need aid. And you, my daughter, will lead the humanitarian mission." Verithix felt her breathing vents close in shock. "Me? Father, I've never left the palace district. I've never faced any kind of danger, or precisely why you must go," her father interrupted. "You are third in line for the throne, but you have no real experience. This will be your test." The mission is calculated to be 87% safe. You will have full military escort, but you must prove you can lead in less than perfect conditions. That night, Verithix couldn't sleep. She paced her chambers, her four hands twisting together nervously. Finally, she did something she had never done before. She went to find Marcus. She found him in the garden, sitting on a bench and looking at the artificial stars projected on the dome above. Real stars were filtered out because unfiltered starlight contained trace radiation. "Can't sleep?" Marcus asked without turning around. "How did you know it was me?" "Recognized your footsteps. You pace when you're worried." Verithix sat beside him, careful to maintain proper distance. "I'm terrified, Marcus. Tomorrow we leave for Theta Calrathi 7, and I've never even been uncomfortable before. How can I lead people through actual danger?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You know what the difference is between your people and mine? You're reckless, and we're careful." He laughed. "We're both scared, Princess. Humans get scared all the time. The difference is, we learn to use fear instead of hiding from it. I don't understand. Fear is just information. It tells you what matters. It tells you when to pay attention. Your people tried to eliminate fear by eliminating everything dangerous. But you also eliminated growth, adventure, and meaning." Verithix thought about this. "Have you ever been truly afraid?" Marcus's face grew sad. "Yeah, I had a daughter once. She died in a shuttle accident. I was afraid then. So afraid I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. But you know what? That fear taught me something. It taught me that love means risk. That caring about someone means accepting you might lose them. And that's still worth it. I'm sorry for your loss." "Me too, kid. Me too." Marcus looked at her with his strange two eyes. "But here's what I know. You being scared about this mission. That's good. That means you care about doing it right. That means you care about the people you're going to help. Fear isn't the enemy, Princess. Fear is just the beginning of courage." Verithix sat in silence, processing this strange human wisdom. Her people had spent 10,000 years building walls against danger. Maybe it was time someone learned to walk through them instead. The next morning, she boarded the diplomatic vessel Serenity's Crown with Marcus at her side. As the ship lifted off, she looked back at the palace, the only home she had ever known. Safe and perfect and small. Then she looked forward, toward the unknown, and felt her breathing vents flutter with something that might have been fear, or might have been excitement. For the first time in her life, she wasn't sure which. And for the first time in her life, that uncertainty didn't feel like a problem, that it felt like possibility. The Serenity's Crown was the finest diplomatic vessel in the Calrathi fleet. Every surface gleamed. Every system had 7 backup redundancies. The ship could survive almost anything, which meant it probably would never face anything truly dangerous. Verithix walked the pristine corridors, feeling the gentle hum of perfectly balanced engines beneath her feet. She had her own suite, her own guards, her own environmental controls. She was as safe here as she had been in the palace. She hated it. The Calrathi military officers avoided her. She could see it in how they moved through the corridors, taking different routes when they saw her coming. To them, she was a liability, a princess playing at leadership, protected by her title while real soldiers did the actual work. Only the human contingent treated her normally. There were 5 of them aboard, all part of the exchange program. They nodded to her in hallways. They invited her to their meals. They acted like she was a person instead of a fragile. Ornament. Marcus found her on the observation deck 3 days into the journey. She was staring out at real space, unfiltered for once. The captain had granted her request to see actual stars, though he'd installed additional emergency shields just in case. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Marcus said, coming to stand beside her. "It's terrifying," Verithix admitted. All that emptiness, all that radiation, all those things that could kill us. Yeah, but also all those possibilities. Every star is a sun. Every sun might have planets. Every planet might have life. Might have wonders we've never imagined. Might have dangers we've never faced. Marcus smiled. That too. Can't have one without the other, princess. Verithix turned to look at him. Why do you keep calling me that? My name is Verithix. Would you prefer I use your name? She thought about it. Yes, please. All right, Verithix. Can I ask you something? Why are you so afraid? The question was blunt in a way Karathi never were. Her people had perfected the art of polite avoidance. Direct questions about emotions were considered rude, but Verithix found herself answering anyway. Because I've never done anything real. I've never been tested. I've never proven I can handle even the smallest challenge. What if I fail? What if people die because I'm not good enough? Those are good questions, Marcus said. You know what's not a good question? What if I never try because I'm too scared to fail? Before Verithix could respond, alarms blared through the ship. Her breathing vents seized up in panic. Marcus just looked alert. The captain's voice came over the intercom. Minor reactor fluctuation in Section 7. Automatic systems are offline. Manual reset required. The section is currently unpressurized. Verithix felt her 3 hearts racing. Unpressurized meant no air. Meant vacuum. Meant actual danger. The Kalrathi officers were already discussing the problem in tight, worried voices. We need to find a volunteer, one said. It's a simple task, but it requires entering a hostile environment. Who has the most recent safety training? Verithix heard herself speak before she could think about it. I'll go. The bridge went silent. Everyone turned to stare at her. Your Highness, that's not necessary, the captain said carefully. We can find someone. I said I'll go. Verithix was shaking, but her voice was steady. I'm the mission leader. Show me what to do. Marcus stepped forward. I'll go with her. Talk her through it. The captain looked like he wanted to refuse, but he couldn't. A royal had given an order. 10 minutes later, Verithix stood in an airlock wearing an environmental suit. The suit felt heavy and confining. She could see Marcus beside her in his own suit, giving her a thumbs up through the helmet. You ready? His voice crackled through the suit radio. No. Good. That means you're paying attention. Now listen. When the door opens, you're going to see the corridor ahead. The reset switch is 30 meters forward on the right wall. Red panel. Flip it down. That's it. That's it. That's it. The danger is all in your head. The suit will keep you safe. The corridor is stable. You're going to walk down there, flip a switch, and walk back. The only thing that can hurt you is panic. The airlock door opened. Beyond it was darkness. Real, empty, airless darkness. Verithix took a step forward. Then another. Her breathing sounded too loud in her helmet. Her vision tunneled. She could feel her pulse in her neck vents. Talk to me, Verithix, Marcus said calmly. What do you see? Darkness. Metal walls. My helmet light. Good. What else? The corridor. It's stable, undamaged. Perfect. Keep walking. Keep talking. Verithix moved forward, 1 foot in front of the other. I see debris floating. Small pieces. They're not dangerous. That's right. Just dust and bits. Nothing that can hurt you. I see the red panel. I'm almost there. Her hand was shaking when she reached for the switch. For a moment, she couldn't make herself touch it. This was real. This was actual danger. If her suit failed, she would die, but her suit wouldn't fail. It had redundancies, backups, safety systems. She flipped the switch. Lights flickered on throughout the corridor. Air began hissing back in. The danger was over. Verithix stood there for a moment, breathing hard. She had done it. She had faced actual risk and survived. "Nice work," Marcus said, appearing beside her. "How do you feel?" "Alive," Verithix said, surprised by her own answer. "I feel alive." They walked back to the airlock together. When they emerged, the Calrathi crew looked at her differently. Not with pity or condescension, but with something that might have been respect. That night, Verithix found Marcus in the human section of the ship. They were eating something that smelled strange and looked dangerous, actual cooked food, not synthesized nutrition. "Want to try some?" one of the humans offered. "It's called pizza." Verithix looked at the greasy, irregular food. It hadn't been certified safe by medical scanners. It contained unpredictable amounts of various nutrients. It was completely inappropriate for Calrathi biology. She took a piece. It tasted terrible and wonderful at the same time. Too much salt. Too much fat. Too much flavor. "This is awful," she said. "Yeah, but in a good way, right?" Marcus grinned. Verithix found herself smiling back, her mandibles clicking in a way they never did in the palace. "Yeah, in a good way." She started eating with the humans regularly. Started exercising with them. Started learning their strange, reckless ways of living. They taught her games that had no purpose except fun. They showed her music that made her feel things she had no words for. They treated her like a student instead of a princess. And slowly, quietly, she started calling Marcus something else. "Thanks, Dad," she said one day after he helped her through a particularly difficult zero-gravity training exercise. Marcus paused. "Dad." Verithix felt embarrassed. "Sorry, I didn't mean... No, it's okay." Marcus's voice was soft. "It's more than okay." The ship was 2 days from Theta Calrathi 7 when they received updated reports. The situation was worse than initially believed. The rebels were still in system. The refugee camps were collapsing. Thousands needed immediate evacuation. The captain called Verithix to the bridge. "Your Highness, I recommend we abort the mission. The risk level has increased to unacceptable parameters." Verithix looked at the tactical display, looked at the thousands of dots representing refugees who needed help, looked at Marcus, who stood quietly at the back of the bridge. "No," she said. "We continue. Those people need us. But Your Highness, I said we continue." The captain bowed stiffly. "As you command." Verithix walked back to her quarters alone. She was terrified. She was excited. She was ready. For the first time in her life, she was about to face something real. Theta Calrathi the 7th looked wrong from orbit. Verithix stared at the planet on the main view screen, seeing brown scars where cities should have been green and silver. Smoke rose from 3 major population centers. The refugee camp showed up as sprawling, disorganized masses that hurt her organized Calrathi mind to see. "Landing zone is hot," the tactical officer reported. "Rebel fighters detected in the area. Recommendation is to establish orbit and wait for safe window." "How long?" Verithix asked. "Estimated 6 to 8 hours, Your Highness." Verithix looked at the refugee data streaming across her display. People were dying down there. Children were dying. 8 hours might as well be forever. "We land now," she said. The captain started to object, but Marcus caught his eye and shook his head slightly. The captain closed his mouth and gave the order. The landing was rough. The ship shook and rattled in ways that Calrathi vessels never should. Verithix gripped her seat, forcing herself to breathe normally. Beside her, Marcus sat relaxed, like turbulence was just another part of flying. They touched down on the edge of a massive refugee camp. The moment the ramp lowered, the smell hit Verithix. Unwashed bodies, decay, smoke, fear. It was nothing like the filtered air of the palace. She stepped onto the ramp and froze. The camp stretched as far as she could see. Thousands of Kalarathi huddled in improvised shelters. They looked at her with hollow eyes. These were her people, and she had never seen them like this. Dirty, desperate, dying. "Your Highness, we should establish a perimeter," her military commander said. He was already positioning troops, setting up the standard defensive formations that Kalarathi doctrine required. Marcus and his human team were already moving. They didn't wait for orders or formations. They went straight into the camp, heading for the largest shelter that looked ready to collapse. "What are they doing?" the commander demanded. "Their job," Varathik said quietly. Then the rebels attacked. Fighter craft screamed overhead. Explosions rocked the ground. The Kalarathi troops immediately began falling back toward the ship, exactly as their training dictated. When success was uncertain, withdraw. When safety was compromised, retreat. It was the logical choice, but Marcus and his team didn't retreat. They ran toward the explosions, toward the screaming, toward the danger. Varathix watched in disbelief as they reached a partially collapsed shelter and began pulling people out. "Commander, order the troops to hold position," Varathix said. "Your Highness, protocol demands we establish safety before proceeding." "I don't care about protocol. Those are our people in there." "Your Highness, I cannot in good conscience." Another explosion cut him off. Closer this time. A large shelter 50 meters away collapsed completely, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. Varathix heard screaming. High-pitched screaming. Children died. She started running before she could think about it. "Your Highness, no!" the commander shouted behind her. But Varathix was already halfway to the collapsed shelter. Her legs carried her forward on pure instinct. She reached the rubble and saw small hands sticking out from under a fallen beam. Marcus appeared beside her, breathing hard. "Dad, I'm scared." The words tumbled out of Varathix before she could stop them. Marcus looked at her, his face streaked with dust. "Good. That means you're alive. Now what are you going to do about it?" Varathix looked at the rubble, looked at the small hands, made her choice. "Help me move this beam." Together, they lifted. It was heavy. Too heavy. Varathix felt her muscles screaming, felt her breathing vents gasping for air. But she held on. Other hands joined them. Human hands. Then, surprisingly, Kalarathi hands. Some of her troops had followed her. Not all of them, but enough. They lifted the beam. Beneath it, 5 Kalarathi children huddled together, terrified but alive. Varathix reached down and pulled them out one by one. "Get them to the ship," she ordered. Then she turned back to the rubble. "There are more. I can hear more." For the next 3 hours, Varathix worked in the ruins. She pulled people from wreckage. She carried wounded to the medical teams. She held the hands of dying refugees and promised them they weren't alone. Her beautiful royal robes were torn and filthy. Her hands were bleeding. Her body ached in ways she had never experienced. And she had never felt more alive. She saw Marcus working nearby, coordinating the human team with practiced efficiency. They moved through danger like it was just another day at work. When a building started to collapse, they simply moved faster. When weapons fire got too close, they ducked and kept working. It wasn't that they were fearless. Varathix could see the fear in their eyes. But they worked through it, around it, despite it. That was the difference. The Kalarathi stopped when they encountered fear. Humans just kept going. "Section 12 is clear," one of the human team members reported. "Moving to Section 13. "Negative," Marcus replied. "Section 13 is too unstable. Circle around to 14. "Copy that." They adapted. They improvised. They made decisions without consulting 7 layers of command. It was messy and dangerous and incredibly effective. Varathix was helping a wounded elder when she heard the rumble. She looked up to see another large shelter swaying. Inside, she could hear voices. Dozens of voices. Maybe 100 people. "That's going to come down," one of her military officers said. "We need to evacuate the area. What about the people inside?" "Your Highness, there's no time. If we enter that structure, we'll be caught in the collapse." Varathix watched the building sway, watched cracks spreading up its walls, calculated the odds of saving everyone inside. The odds were bad. She looked at Marcus, thought. He looked back at her and nodded slowly. It was her choice, her call, her responsibility. "Everyone who's willing, follow me," Varathix said. "We're getting them out." The military commander stepped back. "I can't order my troops to..." "Then don't order them. Ask for volunteers." Half the Calrathi troops stayed at the ship. The other half followed Varathix into the swaying building. All of the humans came without hesitation. Inside, it was chaos. Refugees pressed against the walls, too scared to move. The building groaned and shook around them. "We need to move fast and calm," Marcus said. "Panic kills. Varathix, you take the lead. They trust you." Varathix moved to the center of the shelter, raised her voice. "Everyone, listen to me. We're going to walk out of here together. Stay calm. Follow my team. We have time." They didn't have time. She knew it. Marcus knew it. But the lie was necessary. They started moving people out in lines. Children first, then elders, then everyone else. The building shook harder. Debris fell from the ceiling. Varathix kept her voice steady, kept people moving. "You're doing great. Just keep walking." Almost there. A support beam cracked with a sound like thunder. The building shifted. People screamed. "Keep moving." Varathix shouted. "Don't stop." Marcus was at the rear, making sure no one got left behind. One of the human soldiers was helping an injured Calrathi who couldn't walk. They were all working together, all risking everything. The last refugee cleared the door. Varathix did a final sweep of the interior, her 3 hearts pounding. Empty. Everyone was out. "Move!" Marcus yelled. Varathix ran. The building collapsed behind her with a roar like an angry god. She dove through the doorway and felt the shockwave slam into her back. She hit the ground hard, rolling, covering her head. When the dust settled, she looked up. The building was gone. Just a pile of rubble, but 47 people stood around her, alive because she hadn't run away. Marcus helped her to her feet. "You okay?" Varathix looked at her hands. They were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. She was covered in dust and blood. She had nearly died. "I'm perfect," she said. And she meant it by the time the fighting stopped and the rebels retreated. They had evacuated over 3,000 refugees. Varathix had personally saved 47 lives. Her troops had saved hundreds more. The military commander approached her as the last transport lifted off. "Your Highness, I owe you an apology. I didn't think you could lead. I was wrong." Varathix looked at him with her dust-covered face. "I didn't think I could either. Turns out we were both wrong." That night, on the ship heading back to orbit, Varathix sat in the medical bay getting her wounds treated. Marcus sat nearby, his own injuries being bandaged. "You did good today," he said. "I was terrified the whole time." "Yeah, that's when you know you're doing something important. The things worth doing are always scary." Varathix thought about this. About fear and courage. About safety and meaning. About her perfect, empty life in the palace and these terrible, wonderful hours in the ruins. "Marcus, Dad, thank you." "For what?" "For teaching me that being scared doesn't mean being weak. It means being alive." Marcus smiled. "You taught yourself that, kid." "I just showed up." Varathix closed her 3 eyes and let herself feel everything. The fear, the pride, the pain, the joy. For the first time in her life, she felt real, and there was no going back from that. The medical bay hummed with soft machinery. Varathix lay on a healing bed while Nanits repaired her damaged tissue. The physical wounds would heal quickly. The Kalrathi had mastered medical science long ago, but there were other kinds of wounds. Marcus sat in a chair beside her bed, his own injuries already treated. He looked tired in a way that went beyond the physical, the kind of tired that came from seeing too much death. "How many did we lose?" Varathix asked quietly. 12 Kalrathi refugees didn't make it. 3 of our soldiers. Could have been a lot worse. It could have been better. It always could have been better. That's the thing about this work. You save 100 people, and you still think about the one you didn't. Varathix turned her head to look at him. Doesn't ever get easier. No, and if it does, that's when you should stop doing it. The door to the medical bay slid open. A communication officer entered, bowing formally. "Your Highness, your father requests immediate communication." Varathix sat up carefully, wincing at the movement. "Put him through." Her father's image appeared on the holographic display. Emperor Zoltham looked furious. Behind him, Varathix could see members of the Imperial Council, their faces stern. "Daughter, what have you done?" Her father demanded. "I completed the humanitarian mission, father. We evacuated 3,000 refugees, and you defied your military commander. You entered an active combat zone. You risked your life and the lives of your troops on reckless actions that violated every protocol we have." Varathix felt her breathing vents tighten. Those protocols would have left thousands to die. Those protocols have kept our people safe for millennia. One of the council members stepped forward. "Your Highness, your actions were irresponsible and dangerous. You behaved like a human." Another council member finished with disgust. Varathix looked at Marcus. He said nothing, but she could see the tension in his jaw. "The Imperial Council has convened," her father said coldly. "There will be a formal inquiry into your conduct. You are to return to the capital immediately, and the Human Cultural Exchange Program is hereby terminated." "Father, no." Marcus had nothing to do with. "The humans have corrupted your judgment. This is clear. Marcus Webb and his team will be returned to Earth immediately upon our arrival." The communication cut off. Varathix sat in silence for a long moment. Then she stood, ignoring the protests from the medical system. "You shouldn't move yet," Marcus said. "I'm fine." She wasn't fine. Her body ached. Her heart felt heavy. Everything she had learned, everything she had become in these past weeks, was being taken away. Over the next 3 days of travel back to the capital, Varathix barely slept. She reviewed the mission reports. She watched the recordings of the rescue. She read the messages from the refugees they had saved. One message was from a Kalrathi mother whose 3 children Varathix had pulled from the rubble. "Your Highness, you gave me back my world." "Thank you." Another was from an elder. "I have lived 200 years in safety. It took a young princess to show me what living actually means." There were hundreds of messages, thousands, all grateful, all alive because she had chosen courage over protocol. But the political damage was severe. Conservative factions in the Imperial Council were calling for her removal from the line of succession. They said she was unstable, corrupted by human philosophy, a danger to the ordered stability of the Empire. Marcus found her in the observation deck on the last night before they reached the capital. She was staring out at the stars again, but this time without fear. Just sadness. "They're going to take it all away," she said. "The mission. The program. You." "Yeah," Marcus said simply. "I don't know what to do." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you about my daughter?" Varathix nodded. Her name was Sarah. She was 12 when she died. Shuttle accident during a school trip to Mars. I was supposed to go with them, but I had work. Always had work. Marcus's voice was steady, but Verithix could hear the old pain in it. After she died, I blamed myself. Blamed the shuttle company. Blamed the universe. I stopped living for a while. What changed? I realized something. Sarah died doing something she loved. Exploring. Learning. Taking risks. If I had kept her safe at home, never let her take chances, she might still be alive. But she wouldn't have been Sarah. She would have been a prisoner in a safe cage. Marcus looked directly at Verithix. Your people eliminated risk, but they also eliminated growth. You can have safety, or you can have greatness. Humanity chose greatness, and I have to choose too. You already did. On Theta Calrethi 7, the question now is whether you stand by that choice. The ship arrived at the capital the next morning. Verithix dressed in formal robes and prepared to face the Imperial Council. Marcus and his team were confined to quarters, waiting for transport back to Earth. But before Verithix left, she went to see Marcus one last time. "Thank you," she said, "for everything you taught me." Marcus smiled sadly. "I didn't teach you anything. I just reminded you of what you already knew. Still, thank you, Dad." Marcus pulled her into an unexpected hug. Calrathi didn't hug. It wasn't their custom. But Verithix found herself hugging back, her forearms wrapping around this strange human who had changed her life. "Be brave," he whispered. "And remember, fear is just data. It tells you what matters." The Imperial Council chamber was vast and cold. Verithix stood in the center while her father and 20 council members sat in judgment above her. "Princess Verithix," the chief council member began, "you stand accused of endangering yourself, your troops, and the reputation of the Empire through reckless conduct. How do you answer?" Verithix took a deep breath. This was the moment. The choice that would define everything. "I stand by my actions," she said clearly. "I saved 3,000 lives. I led my troops through danger and brought most of them home. I did what was necessary, not what was comfortable. You violated protocol. Protocols written for a different time. A different empire. An empire that's been dying slowly for centuries." Shocked silence filled the chamber. "Explain yourself," her father said dangerously. Verithix looked around at the council, at the faces that had never known risk or hardship. "When was the last time any of you did something difficult? Something that scared you? When was the last time you took a risk for something that mattered? We maintained stability. You maintained stagnation." Verithix's voice rang out. "Our empire spans 300 systems, but we've colonized nothing new in 200 years. We have perfect safety, but no purpose. We eliminated danger, and we eliminated meaning along with it." One of the council members stood. "And you learned this from the humans? From these reckless children who still kill themselves in accidents and wars?" "Yes," Verithix said proudly. "I learned it from humanity. A species that climbs mountains for no reason. That explores space knowing they might die. That runs into burning buildings when every instinct says run away. And do you know what? They're alive in a way we haven't been for millennia." Her father's face was unreadable. "You would have us abandon everything we've built? All our safety? All our progress? No, Father. I would have us remember that progress requires risk. That growth requires discomfort. That a life without challenge is not life at all." The council erupted in argument. Some shouted for her removal. Others demanded she be confined to the palace. A few, surprisingly, said nothing at all. Then everything changed. Alarms blared throughout the capital. The rebel fleet had jumped into the system. Dozens of ships, more than had ever been seen before. And they were heading straight for the homeworld, The chief council member's face went pale. This is impossible. Our defenses will hold, the military advisor said. But the civilian casualties will be extreme. We need to evacuate the population centers. Evacuate? Another council member looked horrified. We've never evacuated. We don't have protocols for. Then make some. Verithix shouted. She turned to her father. Let me help. Let me lead the evacuation. I know how to work through fear now. Her father looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood. The council is suspended. Princess Verithix, you will coordinate civilian protection. Do whatever is necessary. Verithix bowed and ran from the chamber. She went straight to Marcus's quarters, overriding the security lock. We need you, she said simply. Marcus looked at her, then at the alarms flashing throughout the ship. What's the situation? Rebel attack. Massive fleet. Thousands of civilians at risk. No evacuation protocols. I need someone who knows how to work through chaos. Marcus smiled grimly. Well then, let's get to work. The command center was chaos. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Display screens showed the rebel fleet growing closer. Civilians flooded the streets below, panicking without direction. Verithix strode into the center with Marcus and his human team behind her. The Calrathi military commander looked up in surprise. Your Highness, the Council, has given me command of civilian protection, Verithix interrupted. Now report. What's the situation? The commander hesitated, then brought up the tactical display. Rebel fleet consists of 43 capital ships. They'll be in weapons range in 6 hours. Our defense fleet can engage them, but the battle will devastate orbital space. Debris will rain on the cities below. Civilian evacuation status? We've never conducted a full planetary evacuation before. We have no procedures, no drills. The population is in panic. Marcus stepped forward. Show me population density maps. The commander looked at Verithix. She nodded. Marcus studied the display, his experienced eyes taking in data quickly. All right. You've got 20 million people in the capital region. Can't evacuate everyone in 6 hours. So we do triage. Identify the impact zones. Move people out of those areas first. Set up shelters in the reinforced underground sections. Use every ship, every transport, every vehicle. And most importantly, keep people calm. How do we keep 20 million people calm? The commander asked helplessly. You give them a leader they trust, Marcus said. Looking at Verithix, Verithix felt her breathing vents flutter with fear. 20 million lives. Her responsibility. She could already feel the weight of it crushing down on her, but she also felt something else. The lessons Marcus had taught her. The strength she had found in the rubble of Theta Calrathi 7. Get me on every broadcast channel, she said. Now, 2 minutes later, Verithix's image appeared on every screen in the capital. She stood tall, her royal robes torn and dusty from the previous mission, her face calm. Citizens of the Calrathi homeworld, this is Princess Verithix. You've seen the reports. You know we're under attack. You're frightened. That's normal. I'm frightened too. In the command center, the officers looked shocked. Royalty didn't admit fear, but Verithix continued. Fear tells us when something matters. And you matter. All of you. So I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to move everyone in the red zones to safety. We're going to set up shelters. We're going to protect our children and our elders. And we're going to do it together, calmly, without panic. She paused, letting her words sink in. I won't lie to you. This will be difficult. Some of you will be uncomfortable. Some of you will be scared. But we are Calrathi. We have survived for 10,000 years. We will survive this. The broadcast ended. For a moment, there was silence in the command center. Then reports started coming in. Civilians were organizing themselves, following the evacuation routes, helping each other. The panic was easing. It's working, the commander said in disbelief. Of course it's working, Marcus said. People want to be brave. They just need someone to show them how. For the next 5 hours, Verithix coordinated the largest movement of people in Calrathi history. She worked with Marcus and the human team to adapt their emergency response techniques. They set up triage centers. They organized volunteer groups. They turned the orderly Calrathi society's greatest strength, their ability to coordinate towards something it had never faced before, real danger. The defense fleet engaged the rebels at the 6-hour mark. Verithix watched the battle from the command center, her 3 hearts racing. Ships exploded in silence on the displays. Debris began falling toward the planet. Impact zones matching predictions, the tactical officer reported. Evacuations are 87% complete in red zones. What about the other 13%? Still moving. They're slower. Elders and disabled citizens who couldn't move as quickly. Verithix looked at the trajectories. Looked at the time remaining. Did the math. They weren't going to make it. I'm going down there, she said. Your Highness, no. You're needed here. Those people need me more. Verithix was already moving toward the transport bay. Marcus and his team fell in behind her without a word. They took a fast shuttle down to the surface. The city streets were nearly empty now, most people safely in shelters. But in the red zone, Verithix could see a group of about 200 Calrathi, mostly elders, moving slowly toward the nearest shelter entrance. They wouldn't make it before the debris hit. Verithix brought the shuttle down in the middle of the street. The ramp dropped, and she ran out, Marcus beside her. We're here to help, she shouted. Everyone who can walk unaided, keep moving to the shelter. Everyone else, get on the shuttle. The elders stared at her. A princess in person covered in dust and urgency. Now. Marcus added. Move! They moved. The human team helped elders and disabled Calrathi onto the shuttle. Verithix ran ahead to the slow-moving group, urging them forward. We're almost there. Keep going. You're doing great. An elder stumbled. Verithix caught him with her 4 arms, supported his weight. I've got you. Just a little further. The sky above them began to glow. Debris entering the atmosphere. 30 seconds to impact. Marcus's voice crackled over her communicator. Verithix looked back. There were still 50 people not in the shelter. The shuttle was full, lifting off, but there were too many left behind. Run, she shouted. Everyone run. But elders couldn't run. The disabled couldn't run. They could only move as fast as they were capable of moving, and it wasn't fast enough. Verithix made a choice. She stood at the shelter entrance, using her body to help people through faster. Marcus was beside her, practically throwing people through the doorway. 20 people left. 15. 10. The sky was burning now. Massive pieces of debris screaming down. 5 people left. Go! Verithix shouted at Marcus. Get inside. After you, princess. I said go. Not happening. 2 people left. An elder couple, holding each other's hands, moving as fast as they could. Verithix grabbed them both and literally threw them through the doorway. Marcus grabbed her arm and yanked her inside. The shelter door slammed shut. 1 second later, the world outside became fire. The impact shook the entire shelter. The lights flickered. Dust rained from the ceiling. People screamed. But the structure held. Verithix lay on the floor, breathing hard. Marcus sat beside her, equally exhausted. Dad. I'm scared, she said with a slight laugh. Yeah, well, join the club, Marcus replied. They stayed in the shelter for 3 hours while the battle raged above. Verathix moved through the crowd, speaking to people, offering comfort. These were her people, not subjects in a distant palace, but real individuals who she had helped save. Finally, the all-clear sounded. The rebels had been driven off. The capital was damaged but standing. The evacuation had worked. Verathix emerged from the shelter to find her father waiting. Emperor Zolfin looked at his daughter, Dusty, exhausted, alive, and something changed in his expression. You saved them, he said simply. We saved them. Me, Marcus, the human team, all of our people working together. Her father nodded slowly. Perhaps I've been wrong. About many things. But there was no time to discuss it. More alarms were sounding. The tactical officer came running up. Your Highness, Your Majesty. The rebel fleet is regrouping. They're preparing for another attack. And they've reinforced. We're outnumbered 3-1 now. Verathix felt her heart sink. They had survived one attack. Could they survive another? Then Marcus checked his communicator and smiled. Actually, I think the odds just got better. What do you mean? When we first got the alert about the rebel attack, I sent a message to Earth's nearest fleet. Told them our alliance was being tested. Asked if they were coming. And? They're here. On the tactical displays, new signatures appeared. 20 human warships, dropping out of faster-than-light travel, right in the middle of the battlefield. The human fleet commander's message came through. This is Captain Rodriguez of the UESC Indomitable. We heard you could use a hand. Let's show these rebels what happens when you mess with our friends. The combined human Calrathi fleet turned to face the rebels. And this time, the rebels saw something they hadn't expected. Calrathi ships fighting with human tactics. Taking risks. Adapting. Being unpredictable. With Verathix coordinating defense from the ground and the human fleet adding their strength in space, the battle turned. The rebels, faced with an enemy that wouldn't follow predictable patterns, broke and fled. The homeworld was saved. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The Imperial Council met to discuss Verathix's future, but the decision had already been made by the people themselves. They had seen their princess risk everything for them. They had seen her lead through fear instead of hiding from it. Marcus recovered from his injuries in the Palace Medical Center. Verathix visited him every day, bringing him terrible human food that he claimed to miss. What will you do now? Marcus asked one day. I'm going to change everything, Verathix said simply. The council has agreed to let me establish something new. The Academy of Courage. A place where young Calrathi will train alongside humans to learn what our ancestors forgot. What's that? That a life without risk is not life at all. That fear is just the beginning of courage. That we need to grow again, explore again, live again. Marcus smiled. Sounds like something a wise human once said.